Which call to order this meeting, business meeting for the Borough of Gettysburg. We don't have any opening remarks, so we'll go directly into the moment of silence and the pledge, please. Pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I trust everybody's had an opportunity to review the agenda. Does anybody care to make the motion to approve it?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the March 11th, 2024 agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I hope you all have had a chance to review the minutes. Would anybody care to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to approve minutes of the council meeting of February 12th, 2024, the special council meeting and council work session held on February 26th, 2024 as presented.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or additions or omissions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Brings us to our first public comment section of the evening. I'll remind everybody here in the gallery, please use the podium. Give us your name, address of residence, and please restrict yourself to 5 minutes. And this first session is restricted to items appearing on tonight's agenda.
My name is Carl Peterzak. I'm the president of Destination Gettysburg. My residence is 63 Hunters Trail in Gettysburg. And I just wanted to comment on the bus pilot parking program being reinstated. From what I read in the newspaper, it sounds like some of the suggestions made after the program wrapped up in the fall were put in place or are being planned to be put in place. So I appreciate that, and I've talked with some of our partners, and that's appreciated. I think it's a good thing to have the program back in place with the changes as I've read them, and anticipate and appreciate council's willingness going forward after this 90 days to see how it worked out with the changes and maybe make other updates as needed, but look forward to see how it works. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Any other public comment? Not seeing any, I'm going to move on. We'll have another opportunity at the end of the meeting, if you like. Mayor Frealing could not be with us tonight. She is under the weather, and she did have a proclamation that she has prepared, and she's asked me to read it in her stead. And I was hoping to ask Ms. Sanders to give us a little background on this.
Sure. So the proclamation is declaring this week, March 11th through March 15th, 2024, as Civic Learning Week. Civic Learning Week, is a product of iCivics, which is an organization dedicated solely to providing curriculum materials, free supplemental materials to classrooms when they teach civics. They have a website. It's civiclearningweek.org, and you can get on there and find out a little bit more about the initiative. But overall, they're seeking to highlight the importance of civic education in sustaining and strengthening our constitutional democracy in the United States. And in addition to Civic Learning Week, there is a coalition of teachers advancing civic learning, and that's under the auspices of iCivics as well and their Policy Action Committee. And what they're asking people to do is check out the Civic Secures Democracy Act from 2021, which legislation was passed to expand access to civics education with $1 billion investment across K through 12 and higher education, funding for state education agencies, nonprofits, higher eds, as well as for research, updating civics grants programs. That would give schools and local education agencies as well as nonprofits money to initiate civics programming, and two times yearly administration of the National Assessment of educational progress in civics from grades 4 through 12. So that's a little bit of background about the Act and the legislation, but Civic Learning Week also includes a lot of other programming, both online and in person.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So on behalf of Mayor Frealing, I'll read this proclamation. Whereas our nation's long-standing and ongoing audacious experiment in self-governance requires a populace with an understanding of the nation's laws and government, the skills for discussion and working together across differences, and a widespread commitment to the civic strength of our communities. And whereas civic education is vital to sustaining and strengthening constitutional democracy in the United States, and whereas the practice of democracy must be taught and learned anew by each generation. And whereas the civic mission of schools play a central role in building the civic strength of our populace and nation, and whereas Civic Learning Week seeks to unite our community and highlight the importance of civic knowledge, skills, and dispositions that provide the foundation for an informed and engaged populace. Now, therefore, I, Rita C. Frealing, Mayor of Gettysburg, do hereby proclaim March 11th through 15th, 2024 as Civic Learning Week, given under my hand and the seal of the Borough of Gettysburg this 11th day of March, 2024.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that to the borough's attention.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
And then I believe we have our friends from the fire department here to talk to us. Chief, Deputy Chief, thanks for joining us.
Good evening. It's always a pleasure to represent the fire department here. With me, for those that don't know, Scott McGonigal, Deputy Chief of the fire department. Our primary purpose tonight is annual box card review. We're going to tag team you real quick. I'll give you just a little review on what a box card is. Box card is it's old terminology that goes back to pool boxes. Hanover Borough still uses them, the red boxes. And you can find one on the front of my house at 300 Hanover Street, but it doesn't work. But we're using a very old term for very modern computer-aided dispatching. And it dispatches when an alarm goes out by the type of alarm and the location of the alarm as to what equipment gets dispatched to it. So that's Reader's Digest version of what a box card is. The county requires us to get municipal approval, which is good because although we write the box card, ultimately you have the final approval of that. So Scott's going to go over just briefly what we did with the box cards for Gettysburg Borough, which is our box 1, and then everything radiates basically Baltimore Pike, Emmitsburg Road, Fairfield Road. It just radiates around on the major roads, and it ends up with box 19 going out to Hanover Road. And we split our boxes between a hydrant and non-hydrant areas. Of course, Gettysburg Borough is an all-hydranted area, which we're thankful for. So Scott's going to explain the actual box card itself for Gettysburg Borough.
Yeah, so short and sweet, the county was able to provide and paid for third-party data, essentially geolocational data to take the resources throughout the county, Franklin County, York County, and Cumberland County. So I was able to pinpoint off box 1, as you talked about, and pull those resources all the way through 4 alarm assignments at our working fire dispatch. So no resources were removed from the previous box card assignments. They were actually added and increased our capabilities and meet our response objectives through our Gettysburg Borough. But yeah, that's the short and sweet, and I'm looking for you guys' approval for that. It was fair and balanced. There was no, using third-party data for that.
Anybody have any questions for these gentlemen? Thank you both.
All right.
Thank you.
Are you okay if we have some other meetings tonight? If we'll stay if you have anything else for us, but if you don't mind.
Thank you. For your
Okay,
time.
thank you.
Thank you.
Right, so that takes us to current and old business, and we will take our first trip this evening over to the planning department and Mr. Whitmore.
Good evening. A copy of the report was included, at least digitally. I'm going to just go over the high points. The Zoning Hearing Board met on February 13th. They approved the Getty's Golf project. Staff is currently working with the developer to get either a sketch plan or begin the actual site development process. So that's moving along. In terms of ordinances, We will be having the library land use heard in front of the Planning Commission at the next scheduled meeting, which is March 18th. Additionally, notice was sent to the county to provide their recommendation from the Office of Planning and Development. With regards to the zoning ordinance, the steering committee has met in February. We discussing land use table, building height, related density incentives, and lighting. Building height density incentives will be discussed again on March 26th. I've been reaching out to the Housing Authority, other entities specifically related to environmental building practices and other development incentives that we can potentially pursue for inclusionary zoning aspects. And when I say inclusionary zoning, that's ways to provide more housing. Sign ordinance group has been meeting every other week. We are getting to a point where we're probably going to have a draft ordinance if not next week, in 2 weeks after that. Overall, it's been a very good process. We're gonna have a lot of data to be able to share with council on that item. So if you have thoughts about signage, or we're willing to listen to them now, because we're going to be getting into the real thick of it here soon. Finally, the code enforcement ticketing. We're going to be working with the solicitor on the actual draft ordinance so we can get that to you here in the coming week, coming 2 weeks, I guess, for the next meeting, workshop meeting this month. Now that we've had an opportunity to identify the, I guess, the method for an appeals process, that was really the big question mark we were having. Finally, staff was able to attend a grant workshop on February 13th. Received some good information regarding local processes, but also philanthropic avenues for grant funding. And finally, we will be meeting with the Healthy Adams Bicycle Pedestrian on March. Well, that happened on March 5th. Happy. And then the Steinway Business Improvement District, that occurred on March 7th. That concludes my report.
Questions for Mr. Whitmore? Thank you, sir. Ms. English?
Thank you, President Moon. I have a few items. You do have my manager's report in your folders. The top two for a harbor review at Baltimore Street, they're changing the metal shipping containers to a wood-type structure that would be more fitting in the historic district. So I did work with them on that, and they are on the next agenda for next Wednesday for harbor review. And May is Preservation Month, so we are looking to do our harbor wars again at our May meeting. So we're kind of reviewing those with the harbor board as to which projects will qualify for the criteria that we review for. So we're narrowing those down hopefully soon. That's all I have, and the few items I have on the agenda for a motion.
Any questions for Ms. English? Would anybody care to make that hard motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the recommendations of the Borough of Gettysburg Historic Architectural Review Board, HARB, following its review on February 21st, 2024, and grant certificates of appropriateness for the following applications as presented. COA 24-0005, Major Project 17 Lincoln Square, Wallace Real Estate Group LLC, for the replacement of the existing veneer concrete steps to the entrance of the building with new brushed concrete steps, and install a removable ADA handrail with brass floor sockets as presented to the board in the application dated January 8, 2024. COA 23-0003, Major Project 615 York Street, Schmuck Lumber Company, for the proposed renovation and alterations of an existing building in order to combine two retail spaces into one larger hardware retail space to include the creation of a new main entranceway with parallel ADA concrete ramps with railings, downlighting from the roof and parking lot, and maintain the brick facade and window style as presented in the application dated February 1, 2024. COA 24-0004, Major Project 106 North Washington Street, Eric Smith, from the historic railroad passenger station for the complete historic train station renovation project at 106 North Washington Street to include the demolition of additions to the west side of the building, restore the original train station building, add a new toilet room, and construct a new platform canopy as presented in the application dated February 7, 2024.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions?
I have a
Mrs.
question.
Butterfield?
Deborah, what organization is in charge of the renovation of the historic train station? What organization is Eric Smith with?
Historic railroad passenger station.
Oh, the train rail group, and they're working with Gary Schaefer on that design.
Do you know, is coordination happening with the HAR or with Historical Society?
For this renovation, I can double check on that. I'm not 100% sure if they go through them. It's not a requirement, but I'm sure Andrew might have some comment for that project. But I will double check on their involvement. I'm not 100% sure.
In my opinion, that's an important project for
Absolutely.
Gettysburg, and I wish it every success. It would be a wonderful addition.
I believe there are some zoning issues with the proposal being able to be constructed, so. We just reviewed for the facade changes while they're working through some of the other issues.
Do you know if that, can I ask a question? Sorry. Of course. Do you know if that property is privately owned or owned by any nonprofit organization?
Owned by the college.
It is owned by the college, yes.
Okay.
There's a 50-year lease to Patriot Rail for that property.
It's a great, I hope to have that partnership, because that's a great opportunity, especially, yeah. I also like to comment, at least on the first two, that I really, as always, appreciate any landowner that is able to make revisions within the historic district to accommodate ADA compliancy.
Here, here. Any other comments or questions? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. English. Brings us to the parking department. Ms. Bissell.
Good evening, you all have my report. I have the comparisons there. I have the pay-by-phone comparison right underneath the ticket violations. You will see that's gone up, and if you look at the chart in the back, the cash is going down, the app usage is going up. So it's less we do have to collect by coin. We did have 46 LPPs purchased in February. That's one of the top numbers we've ever had. We do have a part-timer starting this week. He's gonna start training this week. So you'll see somebody new out there. And I think that's about it, other than the motions.
Any questions for Ms. Bissell?
Is your new part-timer an addition or replacing someone?
Addition.
Oh, that's good. That's great.
All right. Would anybody care to make the motion about the parking fees?
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 031124-1 for the purposes of amending, modifying, and confirming certain fees for parking within the borough's Racehorse Alley parking garage, and to amend, modify, and confirm certain fees for the temporary reservation of parking spaces, for the parking and placement of construction vehicles, and open-top refuse containers, and to accordingly amend, modify, and confirm such fees as set forth in the borough's fee resolution adopted on December 11th, 2023.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The next motion covers the bus parking pilot program.
I'm getting there, hold on. I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 031124-2 implementing a Gettysburg Borough bus parking pilot program for the temporary reservation and use of public parking spaces in designated locations within the borough for a 90-day trial period commencing in the latter part of March 2024 and terminating in the latter part of June 2024.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I'll just make a comment that though it says terminating in the latter part of June 2024, it is a pilot program and can be terminated before that, should such need arise, because it is a pilot program. Since our last meeting, I thought I would hear a lot from public. I heard none about specifics to the bus pilot program that's in question. I heard things about other things with bus parking, but not in specific to this particular pilot program.
Anything else? All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That takes us to Mr. Harbaugh in the Public Works Department.
Good evening. You all should have my report. Couple highlights on my report. My crew did collect 181 trees for Christmas trees for recycling this year. We will be doing that probably next week. Drying them up down at our dump facility. GMA, we're doing an emergency stormwater repair out on Seminary Avenue and Howard Avenue intersection. A few weeks ago, back in February, GMA installed a new sewer main, and when they tunneled underneath of the storm drain, we found that there's no bottom in this corrugated metal storm drain pipe. So we had to do an emergency repair before that got worse. So we're out there this week doing that.
I'm sorry, where was that?
Seminary Avenue and Howard Avenue
Okay.
intersection.
Any questions for Mr. Harbaugh? All right. Thanks, Robbie. Mr. Claybach.
Good evening, Council. You have a copy of my written report. I do have two written updates on there with regards to the Gettysburg Inner Loop and the channel wall assessment project. But before I get to those two, there's motions on your agendas for those two. Before I get to those two, I wanted to give you an update as well on the Gateway Connectivity Project. I hope I'm not stealing Charles' thunder from his report here, but I did want to give you, there's no written updates because we haven't really formally gotten started yet with the design, but we're very close. So just a quick recap for a refresher for those of you who were here and for the new council members. The funding for the design was actually approved in 2020. It was a Federal Lands Access Program grant, FLAP grant. We were announced that just about the beginning of COVID. The wheels turned very slowly. About a year ago, the council finally entered into an agreement with the engineer, C.S. Davidson, to start the design. Within days of that decision being made, PennDOT withdrew that process going through the borough to the engineer and instead said this is all going to go through ECMS. That process has been going on for the past year. Charles has been working with those folks diligently, and just recently we were finally getting to the point where we're getting that pushed across the goal line. So we're hoping, knock on wood here, to finally get started with the design of that project within the next month or two here. The other thing is the grant application for the new RAISE grant application has been submitted. We did update the estimate. The biggest change in the estimate went up a little over $1 million, about $1.2 million, and the total project is now around $12.6 million. The biggest change in there, or really the only change to that estimate, was utilities. It was mainly for the water line and for some additional storm drain issues that we found when we were doing the Welcome Center design with what we call the Weinbrenner culvert pipe. So that was the utility issues, and it's actually something that's very familiar to us because it's the exact same concept with the Gettysburg Inner Loop Phase B project, where we know we can't do the project until the utilities are done. So we decided to add some more money into the project for those utility improvements. So that application had just been submitted at the end of last month. It was due at the end of February. And also thanks to Charles for updating the website for that project. So if you go to the website, you can see the new schedules on there, the new cost estimates are on there, the new raised grant applications are on there. In terms of the schedule, it didn't change any from last year's schedule. We're still looking to hopefully go to construction in the year 2027. The idea is to avoid 2026, which is the 250th anniversary of the United States. So that's the update on the Gateway Connectivity Project. Next, I want to talk about the Gettysburg Interloop Phase B2B project. The next step there, of course, you had a special meeting last month to authorize the funding, the borough's part of that funding. We have similar discussions with Stormwater Authority and Gettysburg Municipal Authority. The next step is to go out to bid for this project. Of course, like I said last month, what we have right now is an estimate. We need to get a contractor on board and have an actual estimate so that we know exactly how much this project's going to cost. I will say that there are still plenty of hoops to jump through. I'm asking for your authorization tonight so that as soon as we get across some of these other hurdles, we can go ahead and advertise the project. There is some easements we need to secure from the Gettysburg College. There's some DCNR things we have to take care of. There's some CDBG things we have to take care of in terms of the bidding. So I'm hoping to get the bids advertised within the next month. Worst case scenario, it'll be next month. Still fits in that window, that schedule that I provided to you guys, that early and late. We're trying to get as close as we can to that early schedule per your direction there. So, and then the other thing on the agenda for a motion is the agreement with Heather Hazel. That is for the channel wall along Bream Alley. I did give you a presentation on that at your workshop last month. The only other thing I wanted to say about that is we purposely left that meeting open-ended so that you could absorb the information there. It is something I'd like to keep on the front burner, though. We know that some of these wall failures are imminent. So the next step, if you can remember, I asked you a question, do we and or should we own the walls? If the answer is we should, the next step there is to draft that policy and get that voted so we can get that moving. So that would need to take a motion, I'm assuming, by the council to get the process moving to authorize either the engineer or the solicitor to start drafting a policy. I'm not sure exactly how that looks, but that would be the next step in order to start securing ownership of those walls. So that's something else I just wanted to mention. Again, there's nothing formal, the action that you have to take on that policy yet tonight, but it is something that I'd like to keep moving. Tonight's motion is only specific to the Bream Alley component, which is very specific to the Gettysburg Municipal Authority's Interceptor project, and it's a low-hanging fruit. Most of that wall is in the alley's right-of-way. There's a tiny little piece of it that goes outside of the right-of-way, and we can use it for that. So, that is my updates for this evening, unless you have any other questions.
Does anybody have any questions? Thank you, sir. Anybody care to make the motion on the GIL?
I'll make a motion to authorize the borough engineer to advertise the Gettysburg Interloop Phase B2B project for construction bidding.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And the motion on the wall in the Stevens Run channel.
I'll make a motion to authorize the preparation and entry into written agreements with Heather J. Hazel relative to her property located at 347 West Middle Street for purposes of obtaining a temporary construction easement and a permanent stormwater easement for the construction, operation, inspection, maintenance, repair, and replacement of a portion of the Stevens Run channel wall adjacent to and along Bream Alley.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I'll just remind everybody this particular property is at the elbow where Stevens Run does a little bit of a dog leg behind Dollar General. And we have failing walls on both sides and creating this gentler turn is going to be key to preserving the life of what is there and what will be there. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Chief Plenty.
Good evening. My report was uploaded. There's a few things I'd like to point out. I'd like to start with, I'd like to thank Ms. Sanders for inviting our department to speak to her class for Civic Learning Week. Officer Worth will be speaking to them tomorrow, accompanied by Officer Chilcote. He's very excited to do that, and we're very appreciative to be asked. Thank you very much. I would like to point out that Officer Lardarello has completed FTO and is now out on his own as a functional member of your police department. He is on the B Squad night shift and doing quite well. Still has access to his FTO to answer questions and those sorts of things, but he is out on his own and for the most part out of FTO successfully completing it. So if you see him, you can welcome him aboard again, and we're just we're very pleased with his progress and hope for a long and outstanding relationship. We have, if you've not noticed, pretty much all new cars now. The leases are in, they're a little bit darker gray, and inside those new cars we now have all new tablet computers and in-car cameras paid for by the grant that we obtained last year or the year before, and kind of drag our feet a little bit putting them in cars because we didn't want to put them in the old cars and have to move them. But they're in, and we have received a payment. I think, yeah, I know we've received a reimbursement payment from the state for the cameras and computers. They're in. The computers are functioning wonderfully. Part of that project was the inclusion of in-car modems to carry the entire load from the computers and the cameras. The Wi-Fi jetpacks just weren't robust enough to do that. The modems are hooking up grandly with the computers, but they seem to have a little conflict with the cameras, so we're still working on that through the manufacturer installer, but new cars and cameras in. I believe that, unless you have any questions, that's...
I just want to say I'm really grateful for the progress your new officers have made, and please pass on our gratitude to the officers who have handled that field training as well. We're really excited to have those guys running up to speed. Thank you.
I will do so. Thank you.
Any questions for the chief?
I noticed, not a question, just well, maybe a question. I notice you always are great in your report, Chief, about our mental health co-responder, Mackenzie Johnson. I really appreciate this. I think it's an incredible benefit to our borough, and as I said before in other meetings, I hope that the relationship that I think we still have with funding that's coming from WellSpan to pay for this.
So that reminds me of another topic that I want to speak about, but I cannot speak highly enough of Ms. Johnson and her inclusion with the department and the work that she does. I mean, the outreach that the young lady does alone is worth it. I mean, she has reached out, and I think I put in my report this time about long-term mental health beds for folks. Those are near impossible to garner in this state, and she's got us a couple already. I mean, this is just hard work she's putting in. She's doing a really good job, and I hope that funding continues. It is a grant-driven position, and you know, we definitely want to make sure that continues, because it's definitely a worthwhile program. The other thing that I wanted to speak of, which I failed to mention and I meant to, is that WellSpan, Gettysburg Hospital, has renewed their grant donation, whatever you want to call it, from their funding, and they've given the police department an additional $40,000, or will be giving, I got the letter today in the mail, an additional $40,000 for training, which will allow us to pay for salaries and for the officers to fill and overtime, for equipment, for wellness initiatives, for a number of different things. So we're just greatly, greatly appreciative. The biggest thing that I can tell folks, or one of the most visible things that I can tell folks that WellSpan paid for last time was our bikes and the bike patrol. So that's something that's seen, and they were very big, you know, it really helped out a lot with National Night Out, which is the first Tuesday in August again. We will hopefully be doing a big program again down to Rec Park. I can't speak enough about how happy we're the way that went last year. But to make a long story short, I want to thank Wellspan for their $40,000 donation to the police department. It's greatly appreciated, and we will use it.
Yeah, I also appreciate that. For the benefit of our new members, the police department often hears two things from us, which is they need more training on fill in the blank and watch your overtime. And all that training that we want is overtime. So these programs that the mayor and the chief have been courting and nurturing for several years now are hugely beneficial to all of us. Thank you,
I'll climb
Chief.
up on my soapbox real quick and then climb back down off. You hear the misnomer all the time, free training. There's no such thing. So.
And I was just about to comment that, you know, they always go, I know that they, and I'm grateful that our officers are going through various training that helps them become even better officers. But I would garner to say that the working side by side with a professional like Mackenzie Johnson out in the field is absolutely an incredible opportunity for our department. And they have to be gaining some incredible training from that, just working with her. So I'm so appreciative for that.
She's an incredibly helpful person and just a godsend. So.
Great, thank you.
Then there may come a day when that grant funding doesn't exist anymore, and we may need to look at other means of funding that position if we wish to retain it. And so I hope you are collecting data that would help inform council's decisions should that future come.
Absolutely.
It would be really helpful to know how many people we have diverted from the criminal justice system and into other programs that they need more.
That's all data that so Mackenzie's position is a little different in that she's technically a Wellspan employee, but works for York, Adams, MHIDD, and the police departments. So kind of the coordinating effort for everything and where all the statistics are kept, other than the ones that I give you. I mean, Mackenzie keeps those and gives them to me, but York, Adams, MHIDD keeps those higher up, you know, overviews of what's going on with that. And so yeah, we are constantly looking for, or keeping our, you know, eyes peeled for funding that might work with that, and hopefully there's a federal grant that will open up in that particular area.
Excellent. All right, thank you, Chief. Any other questions for the Chief? All right, so we have the motion on the towing fees there.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 031124-3 for the purposes of amending, modifying, and confirming certain maximum fees to be charged by authorized towing companies for the performance of certain motor vehicle towing and storage services to be paid by motor vehicle owners pursuant to the provisions of the Borough of Gettysburg Towing Ordinance, and to amend, modify, and confirm such maximum fees accordingly, as such maximum fees are set forth in the borough's fee resolution adopted on December 11th, 2023.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Mrs. Butterfield.
I do. In the course of the public hearing that we were discussing changing the towing fees, questions have been raised as to why we need a maximum limit of fees. Chief, would you speak to that? What?
So I had a discussion about this with, well, Mr. Moon and I had a discussion about this last Thursday, and I am actually in agreement with that. Mr. Moon asked me, why do we have this? And you correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Moon. I think that Mr. Moon's opinion was we don't need to have this limit.
Well, I was having a hypothetical conversation
okay.
as to, you know, do we need it? But I wouldn't say I stated a position one way or the other.
But it you know, depending on you're looking at it, it's only for tow trucks when we summon them. So, and not summon them, but we're summoning for our purposes. So if it's a crash and we're summoning a tow truck for our purposes, then that cap is there. And I think that since we are, in essence, telling this particular driver or owner that this is the tow company you're going to use because we said next available tow company, that we can't allow that tow company to charge them $1,000 when another tow company will charge them $500. So I think that that's the reason that we have this here. Now, but that doesn't come into play all the time, because if we're to crash, even though we may be calling the dispatch center and saying, hey, can you send me this particular tow company, and we're actually having the dispatch center summon them for us, that's actually the operator or owner of that vehicle has asked for that particular tow company. So in my mind, this wouldn't technically govern that, but it's only when we are asking for that tow for our purposes.
So we did discuss this at length during the workshop. I think you were absent that evening 2 weeks ago. And we went back and forth on this for, I think, a fair amount of time. And basically we came up with fees that kind of split the difference between where we were at and what you're asking for. And I don't think there's anybody here who doesn't understand why we need to raise them. There was just a question of to what degree we would raise them. And I think we all understand that we have already had one of our 3 contracted vendors withdraw their service, so we are down to 2. And so the chief's concern that we could find ourselves with none is not unwarranted. So I think what we did here was split the difference, and should the problem continue to develop, then we might have to address this again in a stronger method. We might have to eliminate the fees altogether, but I think we should see what works here. Is there any other questions or comments?
Is that readdressing it possible to do quickly, like next meeting? Or are you saying readdressing over a 6-month period?
I'm saying, if we were to lose vendors altogether because these caps were seen to be too onerous, then we would certainly need to revisit this.
I think that the intent is to help kind of protect the citizen from being, if they come in and, okay, it's $1,000.
Right.
So it gives them a layer of protection that they can't be overcharged for a service that they really don't have they're not buying the service.
That's right.
It's going to happen no matter what.
That's right.
So I think it helps protect the residents.
Anybody else?
And as the ordinance is written right now, this is why we have to set fees. The reason why the borough
There is a specific,
council
there's a
is setting
spec-
fees
Yes.
for some other business is because it's written that way in the ordinance.
Well,
And the Commonwealth
but-
Borough Code
yeah, I was gonna
tells us
say,
we can do
but,
that.
to clarify, we're not putting caps on, this is only on borough-called towing companies, and to a degree, as Mr. Bale said, I mean, the purpose of the cap is essentially to protect essentially the owner of the vehicle, because they're the ones that have to pay for the service. And this doesn't come under, it would be impossible for us to put it up for public bidding and so forth. But that's the concept too of public bidding, if you will, is to keep a fee, or the fees reasonable and so forth. It does also provide that we should be looking at these every 3 years to see whether or not adjustments should be made, and that might be something we want to, I'm guessing the chief probably has that one already penciled in 3 years from now.
The ordinance says 3 years, we'll be looking at it again in 3 years. That's
Right.
yeah, and if I may, it's just a quick interjection on what Harry said. It's not necessarily borough called, but I think it's more appropriate to say borough required tow.
And we will have a natural inflection point to review this again in budget season as well when we set the fee schedule for 2025. All right, any other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Chief. That takes us to Ms. Stull and Mr. Gable.
I don't have anything to add to the agenda.
Thank you. Mr. Gable.
Through, in addition to my written report, which you have a copy of, the Borough through the end of February, Leap Day, 29th of February 2024, General Fund is currently running a $260,000 deficit, no surprise there. That will reverse very quickly here in the month of March as we start receiving property tax receipts through Lisa Angstad, our tax collector. Overall, the borough continues to run fairly high fund balances in our various fund accounts. The general fund, inclusive of our reserve money, it has a balance of $2.5 million. Across all funds, just over $7.3 million. Mr. Clayball had mentioned that we are close to finalizing the agreement with PennDOT to administer the FLAP Federal Lands Access Program grant, which was in the amount of $800,000. The whole engineering piece to that Gettysburg connectivity project is $1.2 million. So there are some funds that are contributed to that effort by the borough itself, but we also have a partner in PennDOT. They are also helping fund the local match to that grant program. We also did successfully submit on February 28th the fourth round of the RAISE grant, which would be for the construction dollars of the Gettysburg Gateway Connectivity Project. RAISE is the Rebuilding America Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity. We do hope that the fourth time is a charm and that we do receive those federal funds for the development and construction of that project. It would be a game changer for the borough. Essentially from the borough limit on Baltimore Street to the train station would essentially look like Steinway Avenue does today, and then there would be a lot of other innovative pieces that would be implemented into that project as well. So we'll see where that lands, and hopefully we'll have good news to talk about that later this year. There will be an initiative that will appear on your workshop in March relative to this. I don't want to get ahead of that, but there will be a public discussion on how we can help maybe ensure that we are successful in this round, and the council will have to make a decision on if there's something that they would like to do to that end. With that, there are a lot of motions under my tab. Some may need more discussion and clarification than others, so with that I will turn it back to President Moon.
All right. Would somebody care to make the first motion for bills and payrolls?
I'll make a motion to approve all bills and payrolls for the month as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We have a COLA increase for Site the Grissom.
I'll make a motion to authorize a COLA increase for retired police pensioner Scytha Grissom to be paid from the police pension plan effective February 1st, 2024.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The pension fund.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 031124-4 to excuse the police from making contributions to the police pension fund for fiscal year 2024.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We have the box cards.
Make a motion to approve the 2024 municipal box alarm card information estimated by the Gettysburg Fire Department Fire Chief for the Adams County Department of Emergency Services.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and does anybody have any questions based on the presentation we heard this evening? All those,
Excuse me, Matt, if I may. I have a signature page that each counselor will need to sign that. I can pass it down.
thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We have the interloop match grants money.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 03112-4-5, authorizing a Gettysburg Borough local match in the amount of $273,500 relative to the funding in connection with the construction and completion of certain infrastructure and utility improvements for Phase B2B of the Gettysburg Interloop project.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this? It's a lot of money. All right, so just to remind everybody, this is the project for the phase of the loop that we need to break ground on by next year. Otherwise, we lose a significant amount of grant funding and would negatively impact our ability to secure that funding in the future. And our excellent partners in the Municipal Authority and the Stormwater Authority have agreed, at least tentatively, to help us share the burden of the budget shortfalls that we are experiencing. Most of this project was budgeted with the understanding that we were hoping for grant funding that did not materialize. And so now we're sort of left with this deficit we have to fill. And should we pass this here tonight, we will be joining our partners at GMA and the Stormwater Authority, as well as our friends at Happy, who have raised a significant amount of money for this project. And we'll be moving this very important piece of infrastructure forward.
And if I may, Matt, we discussed this topic at length at workshops, at least the last two, I think. And as I recall, as you mentioned, there is some money there on the table that we have to use or we'll lose it. And it was commented by a colleague that I don't like leaving money on the table.
That's right.
And I certainly don't want that, and I don't want to also, for that to hurt any future grant applications from said grantor. I am very hopeful that those partners will step up to the plate, and I'm very excited for the Gettysburg Interloop project to continue.
Yeah, and this is a lot of money, but we're going to be moving this money out of our capital reserves. And the purpose of that capital reserve is so that we can, when we have to, make these grant matches or fund shortfalls and move forward on our very ambitious capital improvement plans.
I think in addition to the funding and the grants and the importance of us moving on this, there's also some infrastructure issues that really need to be dealt with underneath the streets, correct?
That is correct.
And that's why this portion is the priority now.
This is the keystone that's going to hold up the arch of these drainage issues as we address them moving forward, yes.
And this actually, even if we had the full funding, we'd still be doing this first before we did the Racehorse Valley, so. Make a motion? Do you want me to? Ready?
Did we?
Yeah, you already
Make
moved.
I think we already did that.
Okay.
You moved, seconded, and asked for.
Was it seconded? Okay.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And then we have an MOU with the Stormwater Authority and
I'll make a motion to authorize the preparation of a proposed memorandum of understanding by and between Gettysburg Borough, Gettysburg Borough Stormwater Authority, and Gettysburg Municipal Authority relative to the funding parties corporation in connection with the construction and completion of certain infrastructure improvements for Phase B2B of the Gettysburg Interloop project.
Second.
All right, so now that we have authorized the money, now we are able to commit to this MOU with our partners. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
If I may, I would have just interjected before your vote that in the narrative that describes this motion, the partners with GMA and the Stormwater Authority are in on about equal amounts, a little less than the borough, but significant amounts. 230 for the Stormwater Authority and pending 225 from GMA.
The next motion before us is the race grant funds. Does anybody care to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 03-1124-6, authorizing and ratifying the submission of a grant application requesting $10,096,944 in Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity, or RAISE funds, through the United States Department of Transportation to advance construction of a transportation infrastructure and streetscape improvement project in the historic downtown area of the borough, with a total cost of the RAISE scope of work construction of $12,621,180, and committing the RAISE 20% local match requirement of $2,524,236 in non-federal local funds for the construction of the Gettysburg Gateway Connectivity Project.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Gable, can you give us a little more background, please?
Absolutely. Again, as I mentioned in my initial report, this is the fourth year for submitting the RAISE grant application. There is a 20% match requirement for that grant program. That 20% represents the $2,525,236,000. Should that RAISE grant application be awarded, this motion would authorize that or commit the borough to that $2.5 million local match. If the RAISE grant, when the RAISE grant is awarded, at that point we will have the opportunity to approach our partners, Stormwater Authority, GMA, and perhaps others who will have benefits from the construction. So for example, the Stormwater Authority or has some stormwater infrastructure that needs, so it would behoove them to help us fund the $2.5 million because ultimately it would be less expensive for them in the long run. Similarly with the Stormwater Authority, there's a major water main on the corridor that would need attention. Same scenario there. For them to do that independently would cost them more than $2 million in and of itself. So when we are awarded the RAISE grant, at that point we'll be seeking some assistance from our partners to help fund the $2.5 million. Should they not partner, the borough would still be obligated to find the $2.5 million. We do currently have that through our ARPA funds, so it wouldn't be the best scenario to have to use all of it, but we're not in a position where we would have to borrow money, for example, to fund the $2.5 million.
This isn't something we'd go outside, like through one of the utilities would not be able to help us with this, or it would?
I think there would be a conversation, Chad, I don't want to overstep, but if there's other utilities other than the Stormwater Authority and GMA that would benefit from this, we could certainly engage them.
Okay, because I know Columbia Gas has helped in the past. And
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's any,
I didn't know if there were any gas lines there.
There are some gas in that area, but I am not aware of them doing a project, and we meet with them regularly, and they haven't indicated that they are interested in doing anything there currently. But there is one other partner that I did want to chime in here, and that is, so the motion is talking about the United States DOT, Department of Transportation. There's also PennDOT funds, like Charles said earlier in his manager's report. PennDOT is a partner in this. They go through Rapid Transit because their match money that's put towards this project is multimodal. There is a component that we work with Rapid Transit pretty regularly on this project, and we have for the past, I don't know, 10 years or more since we've been doing the master plan to incorporate components of multimodal transportation. Until now, every year, they've also allocated a significant amount of money. I believe over that 2.5 million. I think they were over $1 million of that was coming from the rapid transit group as well. So there's several partners, like Charles said, and I just wanted to make sure that we were mentioning that multimodal component as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think it was about 2.5 years ago, we adopted the capital improvement plan. Charles presented each of us with a binder about this thick. It's a $26 million plan that involves, I don't know, 60 different projects. And this particular project is about half of that. It would move us very aggressively and positively towards our goals of a revamped tourist corridor through the historic part of our town.
And the Gettysburg Gateway connecting our public's information. It's a portion of that is the Baltimore Street revitalization project, but it's even bigger than that.
It covers the square as
all
well.
All the way to Will's house.
The whole square.
The entire square. So
that's right.
Yes.
Correct.
Is it possible that maybe more partners could even be the National Park Service in helping us fund this?
Well, I mean, they have an infinite number of hoops to go through as well. I think I wouldn't preclude having a conversation with them, but they were instrumental in why we were awarded the FLAP grant, which got this ball rolling in the first place.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. You want to read that next motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 031124-7, authorizing the preparation and submission of an application to the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development through its Municipal Assistance Program for a grant in aid of the undertaking by the Borough of Gettysburg of a neighborhood revitalization plan for the borough's Elm Street district, with the commitment of a local funding match of $25,000 by the Gettysburg Elm Street program, and to further authorize and designate J. Matthew Moon, President of Borough Council, Charles R. Gable, MPA, Borough Manager, and Sarah L. Stahl, Borough Secretary, to sign, execute, attest, and deliver any and all documents and agreements required by and between the Borough and PADCED in order to facilitate and assist in obtaining the requested grant.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or discussion?
Are you looking at me like you would like further explanation?
Can you give us a little background?
I will actually defer to Ms. Sellers if you would like to. This is really something that percolated through Main Street, essentially reconstituting the disbanded Elm Street program that the borough had previously enjoyed.
Okay. It was actually part of my report, but we'll jump ahead. So the Elm Street program, the committee came together with, they collected their half of the match in $25,000. That's in a restricted account. We applied for a DCED planning grant for them to do a reassessment of the Elm Street district for planning purposes and to look ahead over probably the next 5-10 years. That was not awarded by DCED to everyone's disappointment. But they did bring back, the state did bring me a different program, and that's this municipal assistance program. I was not able to apply for that grant as Main Street Gettysburg. It had to be a municipality. Obviously, that's why it's called municipal assistance. So it doesn't obligate the borough to anything because the Elm Street Committee has collected the match monies for the grant when it's awarded, since that's the language of tonight, when it's awarded. And then they will proceed with probably a Dirk and Edson assessment of the district. So. the resolution is part of the requirement for the package. So I thank you for its consideration tonight.
Thank you. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we're getting into some appointments.
I'll make a motion. A motion to adopt resolution number 031124-8, appointing Kenneth C. Kime Jr. as a member of the Gettysburg Borough Code Enforcement Appeals Board for a 5-year term of office expiring in March 2029.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just so that I can understand, what is the process as far as finding and appointing these members, and so that the residents know as well?
Sure. Either of you like to speak to that, or do you want me to?
You can start.
Sure. So we have an application on the website. If you go to the website and just search for the word volunteer, the application comes right up. It lists our 10 ABCs, that's what we call them, authorities, boards, and commissions. And on the back, we put a description of what each one does, what it's empowered to do, and when it typically meets. Anybody who meets the requirement under the ordinance that authorizes the creation of each of these 10 bodies is welcome to apply. Some of those have a residence requirement, some don't. Some of them have an employment requirement, some of them have a professional requirement, some of them have no requirement, some of them just require residence and that you must be a qualified elector. I believe that's universal. Applications are collected through the borough office by Ms. Stahl, and they're then given to the team of council members who review them, interview them, and then make a decision on who to appoint.
I should add, and this year, actually, after January, Judy Butterfield and I were asked to co-chair this, the ABCs, and actually, this is something that's been going on for years and years on the borough. And previous councils, I would sit out there in the audience. I remember when I started coming to council meetings, and other council members would beg people to volunteer. So we have it's a little more systematic now with the actual more formal application. And I don't know if others have interviewed in the past, but that's something that Judy and I wanted to do this year. So, and I will say, we've got 3 of them here today, but we're still in the ongoing process. It's a drawn out process because it's all volunteer and to people's different schedules and our schedules as well.
Yeah. At any given time, we have to find approximately 60 taxpayers who are willing to give up some time for one of these pastimes. Some of them are very demanding, some of them are not. Some of them you really got to do your homework for, some you don't. We are fortunate, after the last couple of years, we have sort of a nice pile of applications from people who said, I'm willing to help. When Judy and I started doing this together in 2021, we really didn't have any applications on file, and we were, kind of banging on doors and dragging people out by the scruff saying, come on, you're going to go to work for us. President Heiser had asked us to do this in a bipartisan manner, and we agreed that that was an approach that worked well, and that's why I asked Ms. Lawson to take over President. Thank you. You're welcome.
And I would also add too, because I think there was some confusion as to committees, because these aren't committees. At one time, the borough did have committees, maybe 6 or 7 committees that were in, monthly, that met monthly, and that involved borough council members as well as community people. And maybe 2 councils ago, the committees were disbanded, but not the ABC. So, and I'm really pleased to say people are applying, and I think we're also trying to keep people kind of in the pipeline as well, so that we have a steady stream. But we're not finished. We are still in the process here, ongoing. I hope that answers your question.
And most of them are structured in such a way that the seats expire sequentially, one at a time, you know, one this year, one next year, one the following year. And so we're constantly appointing people to either renew or to take those seats fresh. We're very blessed to have a high number of people who consistently renew their appointments. I don't know that a lot of towns have that. I think a lot of people get frustrated and walk out after their first term, but this is one of the ways Gettysburg is very fortunate, is that people want to do the work.
While we're on that subject, two more notes. All of those meetings are open to the public, and they are almost always in this room, or somewhere in the building.
Well, so some of them are. GARA doesn't meet here.
Right.
GMA doesn't meet here.
All the others do.
Harb, zoning, planning.
Everybody else
Yeah,
does.
everything else does. Yeah.
And then since we're on the topic, for the public's since you mentioned terms, what are the terms and do they have limits?
So there's no limits, but they're different depending on the
They
body.
vary.
Some of them have 5-year terms.
Some 3.
Some have 3-year terms. The HRC, as it was set up as a new body where everybody was being appointed at once, the typical term will be 5 years, but for the first round of appointments, they were stepped, so that it was one person for 1 year, the next person for 2 years, the next person for 3 years.
They did that with stormwater too a couple of years ago for the same reason. It was a new authority.
We didn't want everybody expiring at once.
Right.
So.
Sure. But they have terms, but they don't have term limits.
Correct.
So they could technically
That's
serve
correct.
25 years if they wanted.
And some of these
If we
actually,
continue to appoint them, yes.
If you continue to appoint them.
and some are appointments to fill like an unexpired term if
Right.
somebody moves or steps down or whatever
Yep.
as well. And we have, some of them have alternates as well, not all of them.
But this being my 3rd year on council, we seem to always have an open spot somewhere in one of the ABCs. So I appreciate anyone that's willing to fill out an application and sit through an interview. And if not appointed the first time, please don't stop. Please keep. And I think we keep their applications on file and
We do.
consider them always.
We do.
Because there seems to always be a spot open.
And you can also check at interest, if you have an interest in a particular, it doesn't mean you'll necessarily get that, depending on what other, but you can check off what your interest is. So,
And you can volunteer for all 10 if you want. So, yeah, we have been interviewing people since 2021, and that started with the creation of the HRC. And that, of course, happened during, while everything was still on lockdown. So Mrs. Butterfield and I had to do all of those remotely with Zooms. And because the HRC was new and because some people felt it was a little bit of a hot button issue, we recorded those and shared them with the rest of council so they could understand how we came to the recommendations that we did.
Got it.
thanks for asking that question, Peter.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a motion and a second on Ken Kime's reappointment to code enforcement. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. The next one?
I make a motion to adopt resolution 03-1124-9, appointing Jennifer Yablonsky as an alternate member of the zoning hearing board of the Borough of Gettysburg for the remainder of the 3-year term expiring in January 2027.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We have Planning Department.
Make a motion to adopt resolution 03-1124-10, appointing Jenny Dumont as an alternate member of the Gettysburg Borough Planning Commission to complete the remainder of an unexpired 4-year term expiring in January 2026.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And then because Mrs. Butterfield finds herself with a few minutes of her day where she's not volunteering for something, would anybody care to give her some more to do?
I'll make a motion to appoint Judith Butterfield as a voting delegate for the Pennsylvania State Association of Boroughs Annual Conference to be held June 2nd through the 5th, 2024.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
Mrs. Butterfield, please have a wonderful time at that conference and tell everyone that they need to come visit the best town in America.
Oh, always do, always do.
All right, that takes us to our liaison reports. And Ms. Sellers, if you wouldn't mind getting back up there, we'd love to hear the rest of your report.
Thank you all. Good evening. Just a few things to draw to your attention. I attended a briefing on the investment strategy of the Adams County Community Foundation. So just a brief plug to this tremendous asset to our community. So in the last number of years, they have grown their endowment investments to $21 million. They are giving $850,000 annually to local programs through grants, scholarships, and other support to nonprofits and things that are happening in Adams County. It is a tremendous asset to us, and it continues to be well managed and grow in its charity and support to us. So that's a shout out to the giving spree that's coming and any other things that you see that the Community Foundation is doing. Pennsylvania Downtown Center, I was in Harrisburg last month. And just a quick update, I do get to spend time with my counterparts across the Commonwealth and calling out the fact that Governor Shapiro, you may have seen, is promoting a program called Main Street Matters. This is a $25 million program that would support main streets as an economic initiatives and opportunities to promote small businesses. So keep your eyes peeled for that and how that's going to shake out in the state budget, but it's really a tremendous opportunity for lots of places like Gettysburg that rely on this kind of downtown revitalization programming. I'll speak in the mayor's absence on Gettysburg Loves Love. So if anybody was downtown on a very cold and miserable Saturday afternoon, but it was very warm with over 100 couples hanging out in front of the Gettysburg Hotel. Had a really successful new event, and plans are already underway for next year. We were able to celebrate our volunteers. So Main Street has anywhere between 80 and 100 volunteers per year. We log about $55,000 in volunteer hours each year through people that step up and do just amazing work. So our thanks to the Dobbin House for hosting us and just being a tremendous opportunity to pay back some of the recognition to people that sometimes are unrecognized in the work that they do. Elm Street, we already talked about. My thanks to you for approving the resolution. I'll say again about the zero interest loan program. So I do have a program through Main Street. We have some reserved restricted funds that we can do zero interest loans, and we are using that and making that available for sidewalk projects. So if there are residents and businesses that are seeing challenges for sidewalk repairs, please come see me for this program for an application and more information. We've talked a lot about the fourth round of the RAISE grant, so that was a huge lift once again. I'm optimistic. So the pool has grown this year. It's $1.5 billion in that program. So I'm hoping they can find $10 million for us. It seems like a small ask, really. So, and the Gettysburg Welcome Center, looking in April to kick off the capital campaign and the endowment campaign. So the goal continues to be to build that project to be ready for 2026 for the 250th of the nation. So we're going to be rolling out a really specific program with answering all the questions of things that people have as that program is really finally shovel ready, and we're ready to break ground. We just need the money to do it. So if you have questions, I'm happy to answer. Okay?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Regarding the Welcome Center.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine the county is part of that, your plan in terms of soliciting funds and things like that as well?
Yes.
Okay, because I know that they have a good share of the pillow tax money, and that was given to, a lot of it was given to the Historical Society, which helped them open their doors. So I hope that they'll.
We have had discussions, and we will continue to go down that partnership, correct?
That's terrific.
Yes,
Great,
thank you.
thanks.
Okay, thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Jones. Gara? Mr. Carr?
Yes, if you are ever wondering what's going on at Gara and you have access to the internet, if you Google Gettysburg Rec Park, a couple of things pop up. Well, a few things pop up. The first two is their website. The second is their Facebook page. They have a lot of things on their Facebook page too. On their website, they have a calendar of events. Whether you're interested in soccer, taekwondo, line dancing, Little League, and more, that's all there. But I want to pitch their Easter egg hunt coming up Saturday, March 23rd at the Rec Park. There will be a visit from the Easter Bunny. There will be moving and grooving to a DJ. There will be special golden prize eggs. I don't know what's going to be inside them. That's because they're special. And the Easter egg hunt is separated by age range to make it a fair chance. They've organized it ages 5 and under at 9 a.m. on that March 23rd, ages 6 to 9 at 10 a.m., ages 10 to 12 at 11 a.m., and everybody older than that, I think you're still welcome to come and have fun. There will be a DJ. So March 23rd, Easter egg hunt is free to participate at the Rec Park.
Thank you. Mr. Berger, the Municipal Authority.
Yes, before last meeting, I took a tour of our new office building on 424 Middle Street. Mr. Moon accompanied me with that. It's about 90% complete, probably going to be finished by the end of April, and hope to have our May board meeting there. The Interceptor project, the sewer Phase 2 project, looking to break ground probably in late summer, early fall. Drawings are complete, permits are all in hand except for the water quality management permit, so we're waiting on that. Out there west of town where we were going to have the tower, that didn't go through, so the Black Horse Tavern Road water main extension, the survey was completed. We're working on a preliminary layout out there. As mentioned earlier, we will be voting on the funding match in connection with the GIL this Monday coming up. Obviously, the water main there is our infrastructure, so I'm optimistic that that will be voted on and go through. We'll have our MOU, so that will be coming up on Monday.
Thank you. Mrs. Butterfield with the bid.
Yes, we meet tomorrow morning to devise and reconstruct/modify a long-term strategic plan. Ms. Sellers has been very helpful in directing those efforts and with providing us with historic documents and information of what has gone before. That hopefully will be in addition to the regular bid meeting later in that month. And this past meeting, I was very pleased when our new planning and zoning director, John Whitmore, attended and was able to meet the members and give some very useful information on signage and other issues important to the merchants of Steinway.
All right, thank you. Mayor Frealing couldn't be with us tonight. She let me know that there was nothing to report from ACPA, so we will stick with Mrs. Butterfield and talk about COG.
Okay, I serve on the collaboration subcommittee for COG, and we have identified a need for cybersecurity training across the county. The survey to determine the degree of that need is complete, and now we're working on how, when we get the results of this survey, they will be compiled and utilized. 2 representatives from Penn State help us with that analyzing of that data, and I still am pleasant to those 2 gentlemen, even though they trounced Auburn in the football season, but I don't hold that against them. But once that survey is complete and the methods of analyzing the data is in action, then I'll have more to report on cybersecurity.
All right, thank you. Ms. Lawson, Happy.
Happy met last week, and Mr. Whitmore has been busy because he visited the Happy board meeting as well, met the members. They were pleased that he was able to join us for that meeting. And it's already been discussed earlier by Mr. Claiborne and Mr. Gable regarding the $107,000. We've got a little bit more than we expected, including the Pella grant. So we're really pleased to be able to put that towards the loop, the inner loop. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. And then back to Mrs. Butterfield for ACTO.
As the February meeting of ACPO is canceled, the next meeting will be 24 April.
All right, thank you. Any chance there's anything going on with the trail feasibility study?
No, sir.
No chance. All right.
Unfortunately not.
Recycling?
Yes, mark your calendars. Here come the dates again. On April 20, we'll have our covered device turn-in. And on May 17th, we'll have our shredding event. For the shredding, it will be free of charge to borough residents, a mere $3 a box to non-residents. People ask me about the sizes of the boxes, and I tell them if a refrigerator or a sofa came in the box, then no, they are not acceptable. But other than that, they are. The usual method will take place. They must, people participating must sign up for a 15-minute time window. That helps us keep the traffic moving smoothly. And they can do that signing up through the borough website or by calling me to assign those 15-minute time windows. April 20, covered device. May 17, paper shredding.
Excellent, thank you. And then we did have the February fire and EMS reports in your folders for your review. Do any elected officials have any comments they would like to share?
I will.
Please.
At Home in Adams County is applying for a grant through SCAP to finance their conducting of an effort for feedback of the public and elected officials to identify the need for affordable housing in Adams County and to organize an initiative for the group to address that issue.
Anybody else? I would just like to say, those of you driving around town may have noticed that the lights around the square last week turned purple. That is thanks to Robbie and his team. That was in recognition of last Wednesday, the 6th, being Black Balloon Day. Black Balloon Day is a day of national remembrance for those who we have lost to the opioid crisis. The Coalition for Overdose and Recovery had a booth on the square from 4 to 6 where we did distribute Narcan. And I just want to put it out there again, if anybody watching at home or anybody in this community wants Narcan for their home or for their business, please just reach out to me. I will deliver it anywhere in town, and I'll give you a 3-minute training, and you'll be up and running. And it's painless, it's free, and it could save somebody's life. So just feel free to give me a call if you need that. That takes us back to public comment. The second section is not reserved to any specific topics on any agenda, but do please limit yourself to 5 minutes. Please use the podium. Please list your name and address of residence.
Good evening. My name is Nancy Goodmestead. I am the owner of the Shriver House Museum at 309 Baltimore Street, and I'm here. I sent an email to everybody on Borough Council, everybody practically in this room, and I'm just looking for someone to explain to me if it is in the ordinance that I can do what I've been doing for 27 years, how can you arbitrarily now say I can't? It is in your ordinances. Nothing has changed, just like you said to me. So can someone explain to me why I can't use those bags now, the meter bags?
If you're looking for a back and forth here, this is your time to speak. You and I have had this discussion at length multiple times. I'm not sure how much more elaboration I can do here.
Mr. Moon, when I spoke to you, you said you didn't feel comfortable talking one-on-one. It would be better if we talked in front of all of Borough Council. So now I have all of Borough Council, and I would like one person to explain to me, like I was thinking, the Schreiber House, we are a historic home. And I am trying to represent life in the 1860s. And I was thinking it'd be pretty interesting if I had chickens in the backyard, like they would have had it in the 1860s. But as I read the ordinance, I'm not allowed to have chickens. So I wouldn't even bother to ask you. But also, as I read the ordinance, it says that people designated can have it, just like I've been doing for 27 years. So why are you not following your own ordinances?
We are following the ordinance. It says that we may engage in that practice. For legal reasons, we have opted to stop that practice.
May I ask what the legal reasons are?
Yeah. The subject of qualification and who can or may apply bags themselves is something that could lead to discriminatory practices. And many of us on council have in the past expressed that it is difficult for us to support policies that could lead to discriminatory practices and more litigation. And so we have instructed the borough staff to resume that activity themselves.
Okay. You've told me before that before you didn't have enough staff, so it was easier if I did it. Now you're saying that you have a lot more staff, but you still can't come and put my meter bags on. I have a bus at 5:30 on Saturday, so that means I have to rent the meter bag from 7 in the morning till 8 o'clock at night. The bus doesn't get there till 5:30. And you had said to me before that this was a police action, and when I was at the last meeting, you said that you got together with Mr. Gable, Miss Bissell, and I think Chad, and yourself. Well, if it's a police issue, you didn't mention any policemen that were there to talk it over.
What I said is that parking prohibition is a police action. It doesn't mean it's something specific to the police department. It means it's legally policing activity. If there's a no parking sign out and somebody parks there, there will be legal repercussions up to and including ticketing and or towing or impounding of a vehicle. So the term police action does not necessarily designate something that we are making the police do. In this case, we have the parking department do that unless they are unable to staff it because of contractual obligations with the collective bargaining unit, in which case we are asking the police department to resume those activities.
Okay, so you're saying that you're afraid that this might be, I forget what the words are that you said, but it says in here, visitation to historic sites and museums. It says it in your ordinance. If you changed your ordinance and posted it on your website, I wouldn't be here arguing with you. But your ordinance says something that I have been doing quite well for 27 years. And I'm following your ordinance.
Yes, ma'am.
So why don't you follow your ordinance? If you're going to make a change, make a legal change. Don't just say, well...
We can refer this to the solicitor, but I don't think we have changed the ordinance. I think we are still within the bounds of the ordinance. Harry, would you care to opine?
Yeah, I do believe that it's discretionary in terms of that particular application, and it doesn't mandate that the borough provide the bags to some, or
For 27 years, I have been following the rules. If I wasn't following the rules, I could understand why you would take them back. Why didn't you take them back from the hotels?
That's a different situation. Those are permanently allotted spaces. They're not temporary. So this is not really public comment, right?
Well, this is the way you said I had to talk to get everybody together.
Yeah, I said that you could come voice your concerns to the full council.
And I asked you if I could have interaction.
I'm no longer comfortable having these conversations privately. That I really want there to be other people witness to this conversation so that the words I say are related correctly. So if you would like, I will discuss with the council here whether they want to continue discussing this in workshops. But I don't think it's appropriate for us to continue the back and forth here.
Very disappointed.
Is there any other public comment? All right, seeing none, we are adjourned.